Good afternoon and welcome back to the channel. As you've probably guessed from the intro, this is going to be a solar panel upgrade video, and it's going to be slightly unusual in that it's going to be mounted on a south-facing gable end. So the system we're currently running is a 6.2 kilowatt hybrid inverter. That's mated up to two Dynas B4850 batteries, which are 2.4 kilowatts each, so that totals 4.8 kilowatts. And we're running six 330 watt solar panels up on the roof. So why the upgrade? For the most part, the solar power system as it stands is more than enough power for sort of 8 to 9 months of the year. But come sort of winter, you know, the last 3 to 4 months, it can often struggle. We've got shorter days. We end up with sort of 8 hours charging and 16 hours sort of on the batteries. And if we get a couple of grey days in a row, we end up having to use a backup generator. Now, that's normally only sort of, well, no more than 10 days probably over those months. But last winter, we had a particularly bad grey, you know, winter. It was a lot of cloud and we really struggled, and the backup generator was on far more than I would have liked. So first up, we're going to get two 600 watt solar panels onto the gable end. We're going to use a kit from Amazon, which you'd normally use on a flat roof, but we're going to adapt it for using on the wall, and I think that's going to work out fine. But of course, we've still got quite a lot of renovation to do on this gable end before we can even get to that stage. So I think enough chit chat, let's get on with this video. Let's get on with repairing that gable end, and I'll bring you back in again when that's all done. So that's it for now. Tomorrow morning I'll get up first thing, go get some sand and cement, and we'll crack on putting this back together. Good morning and welcome back. It's been a few weeks since we filmed any footage of this project. Unfortunately, the weather took a turn for the worst. We had heavy rain, then we had high winds, then the temperature dropped down below the tolerances cement needs to chemically react, so we couldn't do any more rendering. And then it went back to torrential rain again. But eventually we got a couple of good days, New Year's Eve and New Year's Eve, we had good sunshine, so we jumped on it and managed to get the rendering finished. So I'm going to spin you around, we'll take a look at that and we'll talk about that a little more. Okay, so that's the render all finished on this edge here, you know, up to here, which is what we need to get the solar panels on. We got up to 5 coats on this in the end, and as you could probably recall earlier in the footage, this actual box was sticking out from the wall by about 1 inch, a couple of centimetres. Now it's sort of stuck in from the render, sort of a couple of centimetres. Now I'm not too upset about that, because by the time we've got our glands in here and our cables coming out, it's going to be recessed in there, and there's no chance of those actually contacting the back of the panels, you know, and causing us any problems. So I'm not at all upset by that. I'm quite happy that that's done like that. Now in an ideal world, we'll continue on with this side now, get the rendering done, get all the mess finished, you know, but there's about 5 coats will need to go in this in place. If you can see the sort of the angle up there, we've got to bring it out to. And again, unfortunately, we've only got one day. We've got today, tomorrow we've got torrential rain, the day after that we're meant to have snow, and then the temperature's going to go boom, straight down. So being as it's going to be a low light conditions, and of course the whole idea of this project is to get more power when we're in low light conditions, we're going to crack on and see if we can get this solar panel onto the side here of the house. Now, in a minute, we'll talk a bit more about the brackets. I'll show you the brackets that I've got to fix it to the wall. But I think first what we're going to do is we're going to actually take a reading off the app and see what power we're getting with the system we've got now. Now, if I spin you around, obviously please account for the fact that the light sensor on this camera is extremely good, and it's adjusting the actual light to make it a lot brighter than it truly is. But we've just about got the sun peeping through there. So we'll take a reading now. We'll try and duplicate another day. It's the 2nd of January today, so we'll try and duplicate another day similar to this, and then take another reading with the new panels on. So that's a drop inside so we can see the app and see what time it is and what actual reading we're getting. Okay, so it's 10 to 10 on the 2nd of January. As you can see from that, we're currently getting 108 watts in to charge the battery, and that translates when you look down to here, PV charging current is half an amp, so we get very little in at the minute from these solar panels. Okay, so the figure you've just seen in the amp, that's the figure to beat with these new panels. I'm hoping we're going to sort of at least double that with these new panels on in, you know, the sort of conditions you could see here. So moving on to brackets, the original plan was we was going to get some aluminium angle. I was going to cut them into sort of 8-10 centimetre lengths, rivet them into the side of the panel and then roll bottom to the wall. But unfortunately, I couldn't get the aluminium locally. When I ordered it online, it was fairly reasonably priced, but it was as much to ship it as it was the actual price of the aluminium. So then I sort of changed my thinking a bit and see, do they do a special bracket kit to fix it for a wall? And as it turns out, they do, and Amazon has it, and I've ordered it. So I think first, before we get going, I'll take you down, I'll let you look at these brackets there, because I'm quite impressed with it. It's quite a good kit and quite reasonably priced. We'll have a look at that, and then we'll crack on to doing the wiring. Okay, this is the kit from Amazon. I've only had a quick look at it. But these are the actual brackets that screw to the wall. They're like little short sections of track. There's 6 of those. Okay, we've also got some sort of rubber pads that look like they're going to go between the actual brackets and the wall for some reason. I don't know the reasoning behind that. And we've got some actual sort of coach bolts, threaded coach bolts there. They look a bit short. I don't know how good they're actually going to work and whether we're going to have to put some longer ones in. But we'll see how they work out. And then, of course, we've got brackets. I think we've got 4 end brackets, and then we've got 2 centre brackets to join, you know, obviously the 2 panels together in the centre. So that's the kit. I think that was about €24, but I'll put it in subtitles, the exact price that I got from Amazon, and I was quite happy to pay you that. I think that's quite a reasonable price. Okay, so we're right up on the top roof. Now, in my opinion, and I've mentioned this several times in videos before, one of the most important things when designing and building your own solar panel system is to make it expandable. It doesn't matter how carefully you work out how much power you need in that. There's just too many unknown elements and changing elements for you to work out accurately, you know, exactly how much power, how much panels, how many batteries you need. So yes, make your system expandable so you can add to it. Now, with that in mind, as I take you over to this junction box without falling off the edge of the roof, you can see I've left a couple of loops in here to make it easier to cut and connect more wires in. So what we're going to do now is we're going to actually cut this black wire. We'll leave the red one intact. We don't need to do that. Yeah, we're going to connect a length of wire to both ends, drag this wire here back down into here and take it out of that junction box below, and then drag the other end of the wire back through here all the way along to this joint here, which we will cut off, and pull the wire out here. That will do the another solar array here across here, which we're going to do later. Okay, so what I've done is I've disconnected the cables where they connect to the panels at this end. I've switched off the fuse down below that connects the cables to the actual inverter. So we've got the cables at both ends, both cables, even though we're only going to cut into the negative one, are completely disconnected from the system at both ends. So now we're going to go along, trim these cable ties off and cut this black wire in half. Okay, and now we've got plenty to work out with. Now we've got this loop. So that's cut that in half. Okay, and now we need to connect our new length of cable to both ends of this. Okay, so we've got our 2 cables here. This one looks a bit thinner than the other, but I'm sure the core is the same. They're meant to be 6 mil. I bought 6 mil. The original is 6 mil, but obviously the casing on the other one is a lot thicker, the insulator. Okay, so with this, normally I would just tape these together and drag them through, but it's a hell of a risk. It makes it quite fat, and if we don't get this done, you know, one shot straight through, straight away, we're screwed. We're going to have to start chopping rendering off to get to it. So I'm going to use a different method this time. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this wire here. I'm going to wrap it around twice. Sort of like that. Tight. And then twist. Okay, and make sure it's got a good tight hold on that cable there. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to offer that up there so it joins in the middle. I'm going to take this wire here, wrap it round, right round here, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to twist again. Okay, so what you can see now is we've got them joined together tight like that, and then to finish it off, I shall put some insulation tape all the way around it, and oh, that's slipping. And hopefully that's going to hold for us to pull it through. Okay, so as you can see, that's taped. We've used this thick insulation tape. I've been rode over and over it, and it seems fairly tight. I think there's little chance of that pulling apart with that wire in there as well. Now, Anthea doesn't want to be responsible for pulling it too hard and taking it apart, so she's decided she's going to stay up here and feed it through, and then I'm going to pull it in and through from below. Okay, so we're back down on the level below. We've got 2 cable cases here. This actual casing here is pre-installation for grid connection. It runs from the inverter below up onto the roof, and it's just capped off there in case it's ever needed. I mean, obviously we don't want that if we don't have to. This one is actually the solar power cable. So what we're going to do is we're going to gently try and cut this casing away, and then pull the back cable through. Okay, and we've managed to get that casing off there without cutting through the wires, which is always good. So we've got the black cable here, and what we're going to do is we're going to try and pull this through, and Alfie's going to try and feed it from the top, so we end up with those cables down and coming out through here. Unfortunately I haven't got hands free to film that, guys, so I'll bring you back in when that's done. Okay, so that came through surprisingly easy actually. There's the join right there. So first I think I'm just going to unclench my backside. It's definitely an arse clenching moment there. We'll cut this wire, just cleaning it off. We're actually not even going to mess about trying to save that bit. There. And then we've got our 2 cables. We've got the cable coming up from below, which will connect to the negative side of the first panel. Then the positive side of the first panel will connect to the negative side of the second panel. And then the positive side of the final panel will then connect to this cable here, which will then go up onto the roof to the next solar array. Okay, now we've done that first one, we've got this cable, and this has got to go back the other way. So what we're going to do is we're going to repeat the process. We're at the other end of this cable, the roller cable, we're going to connect to here, and then what we're going to do is where I've broken off this straight connector here on the pipe here, we're going to grab the black wire inside and pull it out through here. Okay, so we've connected the new cable then onto the end of the old cable, ready to be dragged through here. I've loosened off all these little clamps you can see supporting this pipe here, which we're using as ducting, so we could create a decent gap to pull the cables through here. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to pull on this back one. Anthea's going to feed in from the other end, and hopefully we'll get the same sort of setup here as we have down below. Okay, so now as you can see, that cable's now been dragged through, so that cable goes straight from below, straight through into here. It's been dragged out through this joint here, and then once again we've cut these 2 cable ends where they were joined together here. So yes, we've got the feeder return basically on these 2 cables. And so that's us done up here. We've got the junction box covered back on there. We've temporarily just taped up this bit here where we've got to go and put the T-joint on later. And what we've done is we've wound these 2 cables together. We've sort of strapped them down to this old support here, sort of flapping around in the wind and driving us nuts, and then just connected those 2 cables together. So for now we're done up here. It's time to get down below and get on with the next stage. Okay, so we've been doing some marking out and figuring out. We want the supports probably about 40 centimetres in from the edge of the panel. So we've made an X here. We're going to have one panel here. It'll start there on that X, and it'll be about 20 centimetres away from the floor, so that when the rain hits the floor it doesn't splash back up the panel. Then we've got a middle bracket here, and then one at the top up there, and they're going to sort of fit on like this in the centre there. We'll try and do them as best we can, but we don't have to be too anal about it, because the panel can slide left and right, and the brackets can slide up and down the rail as well. So we ain't going to be too anal about it. So we're going to get on with that. We're going to mark them in. We're going to drill and plug these into place, and then we'll be ready to fit the panel. So that's all the brackets in. We substituted the screws that were supplied with these longer ones. I think probably in actual fact these are designed to screw to rails or something, because the other ones look like the type of screws you'd use, to go into other aluminium, and that would explain the rubber pads on the back. We fitted the rubber pads. We started out with putting 8 screws in, but we found it was too much. I think what we were gaining by putting the extra screws in, we were actually losing in the integrity of the masonry, because the screws are so close together. So 4 is more than enough how we were staggered them there. So they're all done. 1, 2, 3, and the same on this side, all really strong. We brought the cables out through here, a couple of waterproof glands. One at the top goes to the top, one at the bottom goes to the bottom, so that's easy to remember. Now it's time to try and get the panels on there. So we've got them under the location. We'll quickly go and pick them up, and we'll bring them and see if we've got enough time and enough energy to carry on and get them fitted. Okay, so we've got back and we've got the panels, but now we've got to get them up onto the roof. Now they're far too big to go up the inside of the house, so this is the plan. We've put the ladder upside down, so we've got these sort of these little ledges here to rest the solar panel on with some cardboard to pack it out. And we put a couple of ratchet straps on and strapped it to the ladder. Now, it's pretty solid on there. I don't think it's going anywhere. And the plan is I'm going to sort of try and pull it up as best I can from above. Anthea will try to push it up from below as best she can. And then when we get the tipping point, she'll scatter clear out the way and I'll try and pull it up the rest of the way. It's not particularly heavy. We took the steel shutter boards up there, which were far more heavier than this. So it's not particularly heavy, but it's going to be awkward. Okay, so success. We're going to unstrap that. We've got a couple of blocks already waiting here, which are 20 centimetre blocks, which is the distance we want them up off the ground. Put a bit of cardboard on top of these to protect the edge of the panel. Sit it on there, level across the top, and then we'll put the bottom support clamps in. Okay, so I've done as much as I can while we've got the solar panel off. We've done some self-adhesive sort of clips up here to hold the negative cable, which is a cable that's going to go down into the inverter shed. And we take that right up to the top there so we can make all the connections from above, and we're not, struggling to get our hands down the back and that sort of thing. That's tidied this all away. We plan to do this on the back of all the solar panels because the last thing we want is wind blowing behind them and them tapping in the middle of the night and waking us up. So, okay, we're going to try and get this in place and see how that goes. Okay, so I think that's us done for today. We've got to figure out how we're going to get this other panel on top of here, which is going to be hard work. We're going to get all the connections. We've got a few ideas, but we're going to mull it over tonight. The weather's pushed forwards another day. It's threatening to like 20% of rain at 10 or 20% rain at 2. But nothing really serious, so we just have to keep our fingers crossed it's not going to have a heavy downpour and change its mind again. But it's certainly not the time, last thing at night, when we're tired, to start tackling this top panel. Good morning and welcome back. We've had a good night's sleep. We feel well rested. We spent last evening, discussing the different options we could to get this panel up on the higher level. Now the problem we've got mainly is whilst Anthea's quite strong, she's quite short and she can't really lift things high above her head, which weigh a lot of weight. They're nearly 30 kilos, these solar panels. So what we need to do is sort of get the panel up off the ground onto a step first and then her up onto a step so she can lift it. So this is the plan. I've made these brackets you can see up here. They're made out of rebar and they've got some air conditioning pipe insulation around them to protect the panel. Now the idea is we sort of lift the panel up here into there, and they stop it from falling away this way, and then we could hopefully sit them not on here but on top of this bracket to give us some room to do all the wiring. So yeah, first off we get the panel up here, same as we did yesterday. We get it sat on top of this, the centre part of the panel here, sat on top of this step here, so we've got our height. It means then that it's a bit more this way, the panel, and Anthea hasn't got to be sort of hanging off the edge here to lift it up. She can come this way a bit, and then what we do then is I'll try and lift it from that end, she'll lift it off the top of this step up here, up under the bracket, sit it on, and then we could hopefully slide it back that way. That's the theory. Let's see if we can put that into practice. Photo. Okay, so that's them up and done. I've just been and checked the app just to confirm that we're all wired in properly. Before we put these 2 extra panels in, we were turning about 240 volts, something like that, with them, you know, the original ones all in series. With these other 2 now, we've just looked at it again, and we're getting like 317 volts. So that confirms that they are all wired correctly in series, because obviously the voltage is increased by almost 100 volts. So yeah, that's confirmed that. So they are wired in correctly. We've tested them. We're only getting about 2 amps at the minute, but hey, look at it. That's more or less where the sun's meant to be, and it's very, very grey. Please also bear in mind again, the camera light sensor is making it look a lot lighter than it really is. So anyway, we're nearly at the end of the video. Please stay tuned, because what we are going to do, it'll probably take a few days, but only a few seconds for you, is I'm going to actually take another reading where the sun's more or less the same strength as it was when we took the first reading, and compare and see how much extra power we've got by putting these 2 solar panels on the wall. Good morning and welcome back. It's now the 14th of January, and I'm desperately trying to get another reading to give you a comparison, but of course the weather's not cooperating. I'm to try and find 2 days that are sort of equal, so I could give some sort of comparison with the new panels on. It isn't working out for us, so I really want to close this video off and put it and get it online, you know, for you guys to see it. So I think we're going to close it off today, and we're just going to do a comparison now. Now, if you recall, I'll probably try and get an old bit of footage up in the corner of the screen here now for you of what it was before. We could just about see the sun, or see the sun coming quite positively through the cloud. Now we've got no sun coming through the cloud. You can't see where it is whatsoever. It's just sort of bright down below there, as you can see. So there's no idea where the sun is there behind that strip of grey cloud. So let's go inside. I say it's about the same time as it was last time, and see what we've got on the phone on the app. Okay, and as you can see here, we're getting currently 117 watts in. It's more or less the same time as the first reading. So a little bit more than we were getting last time, but with considerably less sun. And that translates into amps. We're getting 1.3 amps in. Not a huge current, but, you know, certainly pretty good going considering the conditions. So we've definitely got a marked improvement. When the sun comes up in the morning, just sort of over there, and just starts to peep up over the top of the mountain there, we're instantly getting sort of between 100 and 200 watts of power in direct sunlight. Yeah, first thing. So yeah, a lot better for early morning charging when we need it the most, because obviously we've just had 16 hours of battery power overnight. So yeah, a great improvement on there. And you also got to bear in mind that that's all despite the fact that these panels are actually wired in series with the 330 watt ones above, and therefore the 330 watt ones are dragging these 600 watts down to 330 watts as well. So we're losing about 45% efficiency off these panels by having them wired in series to the ones up the top. But that's only a temporary measure until we get the other sort of string up on the top of the roof. So that brings us to the end of this video. Look out for the next video. Hit that like and subscribe button, because there's going to be a follow-up video where I'm going to mount the string of panels on the roof, which isn't going to be particularly interesting, but the thing that will be interesting is I'm going to juggle the wiring around and fine-tune the system to try and balance everything up, so that I can get the old 330 watt panels to play with the new 600 watt panels as best I can, and keep inefficiency down to the minimum. So again, like I say, all that remains is thank you for watching. Please hit that like and subscribe button, and I'll see you next time.